back to part two. Welcome back to part two of Helpless to Hopeful. So, if you watched the video last week, we did some connecting to our bodies, exercise, some nurturing, and some movement. And today we're going to move into some somewhat more cognitive, somewhat more left brain processes. But I want to just, for anyone who didn't see the video last week or for who it's been a week in between then and now, we're going to just briefly connect back in with ourselves in those ways. Is there a lot of background noise? Is it picking up my kids being noisy? Yeah, give me one sec. All right. Hopefully it'll be a little bit quieter. If I have to, I'll close the door, but then the cat can't get to his food, and that's not ideal. So I'm going to invite you to start by just taking a couple of breaths and try to notice if you can feel your breath moving in your body. It can help to put a hand on your chest and a hand on your stomach and just see if you can feel those hands being moved when you inhale and exhale. And then I'm going to invite you to notice where your feet are. If you're sitting or standing still, you can notice the weight of your feet, connection between your feet and the floor. If you're walking, you can notice this dynamic movement. You can notice the touch and release that happens with each step if you're walking or moving around. Either way, you can experiment with pressing into the right foot and then coming back to a more even pressure and then pressing into the left foot, coming back to a more even pressure, pressing into both feet and coming back to a more neutral contact. So just noticing, connecting with your body, arriving. Bring your attention back up from your feet, or think about your attention spreading throughout your body. And we'll go into a little bit of movement again. So this could involve, just shifting your body weight side to side, twisting, if that feels good. You could raise your arms. I'm sitting on an exercise ball, so I can bounce. You could tap your fingers or your toes. Anything just to introduce a little bit of movement into your body. All right, so now we're kind of caught back up to the end of where we were last week. And the next piece here is that we're going to talk about values. So where we left off was, okay, so now we've connected with validating whatever things are scary or overwhelming. We've connected with ourselves. We've oriented to being safe in this present moment, in this present location. We've moved some of that fight, flight, and freeze. And now it's like, okay, but there's still things that I'm not okay with, or I'm not happy with, or they're not working for me. And what do I do with that? So that's kind of the piece that we're going to go through today. So if you have your workbook in front of you, there's a whole page of values. And I'm going to share my screen here for a minute because I have that open. So in case you don't have your workbook in front of you, there is this whole list, a whole page of values that you could potentially have. And probably a lot of these are things that are important to you. And that's great. There's no negative values. There's no bad values. Yes, Maddie, that's fine.
Can you make it a little bit bigger?
Yes. Let's see. How big can I make it and still have the whole list? Is that a little better?
That's a little better. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So you're gonna first go through and like circle or write down on a piece of paper the ones that jump out at you. So like 10 to 15-ish out of this whole list that jump out at you as being important to you. And there's no like right or wrong answers to this because all of these are good things, but not all of them are going to be equally the most important things to each of us. And that's totally fine. So once you get to your 10 to 15-ish, then we're going to go through a process of narrowing them down. And the goal, which you may or may not get to on this call, you may need to sit with some of that and come back to it. That's totally fine. But the goal is to get to 3-ish because that's a number that you can remember in your brain and that are your like top most driving values that really drive what matters to you most. And then you can use that to orient to in decision making. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes here to do your, start your 10 to 15-ish list. Um, and then I'll talk you through how we narrow down from there. All right. If you're not totally done, that's okay. You can keep going on it. Um, but what we're gonna do once you've got your starting list of the values that are important to you is you may be able to narrow it down a bit just by looking at your list and saying like, okay, yeah, these things are more vital to me than some of them. If you get to a point where you're not sure how to narrow it down further, start taking pairs of values and saying, okay, if I needed to make a decision that where my decision was going to either support, let's say, connection, or it was going to support the environment, which one am I going to choose? Am I going to choose connection or am I going to choose the environment? Am I going to choose freedom or learning? And there's no right or wrong answer. There's no correct top values to have. But that's by looking at like, okay, if for some reason I could only satisfy one of these, which one would I choose to satisfy? Is a way to help to start to put it into a list of what is the highest priority, an ordered list of what is the highest priority. And you can go through as many pairs as you need to until you get to three-ish. And this is also not something that needs to be a like, you are going to live these values every moment of every day for the rest of your life. It's static, you're stuck, you've made your choices. So don't put a lot of weight on this. If you make, if you come up with three today and then like a week from now, you're like, you know what? I think that one that was number four should actually be number three. That's totally fine. You can change this as much and as often as it speaks to you because you are a growing, changing human. And so your most important values are going to be growing and changing as well. It's just a starting point to then, when you're faced with a decision where, especially decisions where it feels uncomfortable, like, confronting this family member, or, do I stay silent about this racist thing someone said, or do I speak up? And you can evaluate, well, if I stay silent, does that serve my top three values? If I speak up, does that serve my top three values? And uh, I can't answer that for you. That's the whole point, is having these values will give you a lot of guidance when you're faced with decisions. And the same thing when you're faced with decisions about how to spend your time, your energy, your money, because we don't have, all of these values are great. And so we could say, oh, you could, volunteer with this organization, organize with this, do this other thing with your time, work on healing your relationship with yourself. All of these things, there's a limited amount of time and you have to choose, do I do this thing or do I do this thing with my time? Which one will serve or will more serve your highest values? That's how this works as a decision making tool. So to give it a concrete example, my current working top three values are compassion, curiosity, and joy. And this shows up constantly with my kids. I could um, really stick to a lesson plan. I homeschool. I could really stick to a lesson plan and be like, today we are doing this lesson. Or I could, follow my child's whim where he's decided he wants to build a jetpack out of cardboard. And that's a situation where pretty clearly curiosity and joy are served by building the cardboard jetpack. And neither choice really particularly serves compassion. And maybe a little bit of curiosity in whatever the lesson plan was, but probably not any joy. So the jetpack is clearly the decision that is the right one for me in that moment. And that might not be for everyone. Someone else might have different values than mine and might choose differently. But for me, when I'm feeling guilt and I'm feeling all of the things that I've internalized about the correctness of following the lesson plan, having my values to orient to can help me orient to actually, for me in this moment, the decision that best helps me align with the person I want to be and how I want to exist in the world is making a cardboard jetpack. Um, Also, I hate to break it to you, but cardboard jetpacks don't actually let you fly. I wish I could tell you otherwise. uh, but empty Pringles cans make excellent thrusters. So uh, if you want, you can share in the chat, you can share your values if you get to a top three. I'm going to move along to the next piece, which is number 7, intentions, if you have your workbook in front of you. Um, is anybody, can you like wave a hand or something if you still need the values list in front of you, or if I can? Either change page or stop screen sharing. Okay, I'm going to go back to this then. Hello. Okay, so now that we've got the values that guide our decisions and what is most important to us, what we most value, the next piece is setting some intentions for how you want to show up in your relationships and in the world. So you can think of this, boundaries is a big part of this and one of the most important first parts of this. So you can think about your internal boundaries. Internal boundaries is like what I will and won't do with myself. So like I will limit my news consumption to a couple of sources, or I will limit my social media time to this much time in a day. Those are internal boundaries. Those are boundaries I set with myself to help me keep my sanity. External boundaries are the boundaries that you set with somebody else. If you say something racist, I'm leaving your house, is an external boundary. Boundaries are always what you will or will not do. So it is not actually possible to tell the proverbial Uncle George, you will not say anything racist. You can't actually control that. What you get to control is what is your boundary, and your boundaries, there could be an internal boundary of if you say something racist, I will speak up. That's an internal boundary. I set that for myself. I will speak up and not stay silent. You can set an external boundary of I will leave and next time I won't come over. Those are examples of boundaries that you could set. So boundaries are an important piece of intention setting. What will you do? How do you want to show up to take care of yourself, your relationships? Um, Another piece of this intention is how will you get your needs met? So this is needs you might meet for yourself, and there can be a boundary there. I will go to bed at X time, or I will turn off my phone so that I am starting to get sleepy at a certain time. If sleep is a need that you're trying to get met, the getting needs met can also be relational. I will text one of these three friends who I know can all hold a good emotional space for me every day. Um, They can be more community, like showing up to the healing story circles in the membership here. They can be getting involved in some way in your local community or in the wider world, in volunteering or activism or something like that, um, in ways that serves your values. So now that you know what values you're trying to serve, how can you show up in your relationship with yourself, the people who are close to you, and your wider community in ways that support those values? So if you want, you can share your intentions. Oh, I see people have been sharing things. Compassion, well-being, freedom, adventure, travel, authenticity, fun. Rebecca's are collaboration, self-respect, and hope. Jessica's authenticity, balance, compassion, creativity, curiosity, reciprocity, future generations. And I know that's more than three. And yeah, it's okay to have more than three. I would encourage you to take your time with it. You don't have to do it in this next 8 minutes. But to sit with over the next couple of days with those comparison on the values of like, if I could only satisfy Kathy's community, simplicity, and kindness. So if I could only satisfy curiosity or supporting future generations, which honestly, those two dovetail quite nicely. But if for some reason you could only satisfy your curiosity or supporting future generations, which one would feel more important to you? And encourage you to sit with that over a few days, only because our brains can't hold on to six or seven at once. And when it comes to trying to make decisions about what's going to serve your core values, if you're evaluating that against 6 or 7 core values, it's going to feel overwhelming to decide. It's going to feel like, I don't know, both of them serve like 2 out of 7. What do I choose? But if you know which are the absolute top, it doesn't mean the other values go away. And it might help to have them all, but list them number one, number two, number three, all the way down to number 7. Um, because that will help guide it a little bit. If you're like, oh my God, these both options serve 2, does one of them serve 2 that are more important? Um, and I realize that making that like choosing is hard, and that's okay. That's partly the point, is so that the choosing happens when you have the emotional headspace and the bandwidth to think about those things and sit with them, instead of in the moment under pressure trying to make a decision about what to do with your time, energy, and money. Yeah, I just described Jess's entire life of struggling with decision making process. Uh-huh. That's why we're here, is to try to uh, not be having to go through that decision making process on the fly in a difficult moment over and over and over and over and over again. Sorry, I don't know what is gotten into my kids this morning, but they are not convinced that it's breakfast time. Uh, all right. So if you want, you can share your intentions. And then the last piece of this, step 8, is sort of an integration step. It's the action piece. This is, what are you going to do with your time, energy, and money that reflects your values, supports your intentions. This can involve letting go of things that take up time, energy, and money, but don't reflect your values or support your intentions. And this can be about what is sustainable given limited time, energy, and money. Because staying in go, 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 all the energy, all the things, all the time is not sustainable. We can't stay there. And that's how we end up in this place where we're stuck and overwhelmed that we started from. So, this the action piece, so the intentions can be a little bit nebulous. If that's helpful, to set an intention of like, I want to be present in my personal relationships. That's an intention that is a little bit hard to evaluate exactly how much it's happening. So the action piece is then making that something that is concrete and actionable, that you can say yes or no, I did that. So if the intention was to be present with your personal relationships, let's see, Rebecca had, my intention is self-care, internal boundaries of taking social media off her phone so she doesn't lose focus on her values. Yeah. So yeah, so then that's a great example, self-care, of taking that into the action step of then what is a concrete, I did or didn't do that, that you can say that relates to self-care. So that could be something like, I'm going to eat breakfast by the time I've been awake for 2 hours. That's concrete enough that you can then say like, okay, I did that. How did that feel? Did that work for me? Is that a good thing? Do I want to repeat it? If your intention was to be present in your personal relationships, that could be, you could make a concrete action of, I'm not going to pick up my phone and look at it more than once an hour when I'm with my kids. And then that's again concrete and actual. You can say, did that feel present? Did that work? How did that feel? This could be something like, if your intention was to be more involved in a community sense, this could be like, I'm going to show up to the next meeting of a group that works on a certain issue that I care about. That kind of thing. So getting into a really concrete thing. And again, this doesn't mean you've committed to that for the rest of your life. This is a I'm going to try this thing and then I'm going to evaluate. Did that serve my intentions? Did that serve my values? Did that bring me closer to or further away from how I want to be showing up in the world and with myself? And then, based on your answer to that, you can do more of it, less of it, change course entirely, realize you need to reevaluate your values because all of it is flexible and growing. It's just a framework to look at, is the life you're actually living in alignment with the person that you want to be? And so, to conclude all of this, all of these pieces are big and complicated and sometimes need support. And healing story circles are a great place for that support. One-on-one work is a great place for that support. Being in community and connecting with other people who are trying to live their values in the world is a big piece of that, staying connected and not getting stuck in the isolation part of the overwhelm. Because the staying connected is absolutely vital. We cannot, in isolation, save the world. And so the isolation is part of the point. When we stay isolated and separated, then we get stuck and we get overwhelmed and we can't act on our values and we can't make the changes that we want to see. So if anybody wants to share a takeaway from the whole last week and this week, you're welcome to do that. Um, Intentions, remaining curious, asking what I need consistently, self-care, presence, internal boundary of giving myself permission to rest and retreat when I need to, self-care and by protecting and valuing, not sabotaging sleep, feeling my feelings, taking care of my body and not staying stuck in my head slash worry slash anxiety. Yeah. And if anybody wants to, I will remove the spotlight here. If anybody wants to unmute and share a takeaway or something that you're going to be thinking about or working with, or something you noticed as being a piece that feels sticky that you might need to spend some more time with.
I just want to say how much I appreciated the exercises last week and just the felt sense of the things that we can do. And then once we're there, then moving into like this cognitive piece, like you've done, the values. I really appreciated the values. And I wrote down like 25. Um, so but then I narrowed it down but it was a really interesting process to be able to say, okay, yeah, yeah, this is important, but this is more important, or these are connected, so I can leave this one and I can leave this one out because I know that this one I'm not putting on my list is incorporated into this other word. Um, and I really appreciated your example as well. Okay, and in your daily life with your kids, coming back to your values and, trying to make a decision. So it really felt really practical. And I'm just really grateful. Yeah. Thank you, Jen.
Thanks, Rebecca.
I really appreciate okay like I enjoyed looking for my values, and now I really want to integrate this into my life. Is this serving my values? Like question. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome, Jeanette.
So good, Jen. So good. I'm so
Thank you.
grateful for you sharing this workshop that you've been doing and with our community. And I am curious if you watch the video later, if you're not here live, I would love to hear what you're experiencing and what your values were and what your action steps were. I would really love to hear because it really does take a community. And I really also appreciated the reminder that we all need that community where we can connect with other people who are also connecting with their own values and working on those. So, yeah, because we, especially right now, we really need each other. We really, really need to orient to one another. So, yeah, thank you so much, Jen.
Yeah, we do. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And also, I'm happy to present this again, anywhere, anytime. So if you have a group, if you have a group, let me know because I have a workshop.
Yep, and you don't need to go in person. You can do it online. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And I see Jess said that she appreciates the breakdown and the layout of steps for self-empowerment. Yeah. And Sophia appreciates all the wisdom that this workshop contained. So thank you so much, Jen. And we'll be
Yeah, you're
back next
welcome.
week with something. Not sure what it is yet, but it'll be a surprise. But we'll do something next week. I've got a bunch of ideas. That's my problem is I've got too many ideas. So I'll narrow it down. I'll let you know in the next couple of days. All right. So we'll see you next week. Thanks so much, everybody. And members, we'll see you in 25 minutes. Bye.
Bye.